Good morning, or no, I guess it's good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. And this is a show that's working on making the world safe for ADHD. I am a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist, and I have a private practice, and I have a lot of, at least 50%, probably a little bit more, has to do with ADHD. I used to do a lot of diagnosis and treatment. Now I do more diagnosis, but I still stay fairly active in the field anyway. And I also am the parent of an ADHD child. And as such, and this was back in the days when we first started out, this was back in the days before we knew very much about ADHD. I know everybody says that. Well, at least every patient I have ever seen in my office says that. Well, back in, or at least all the adults that come in. But truth of the matter is ADHD has been identified for hundreds of years. It was first described in the medical literature back in the early 1700s, and ADHD was treated with stimulant medication, we believe, starting in 1937. So we didn't always know what we had, but it's been around under some name or another, and it has also been treated for quite a while. I think that what we've seen recently is more of an acceptance that there is such a thing as ADHD, and that is important. I think the whole that's not really a thing, that doesn't really exist, I don't believe in that, and all those kinds of I would call them short-sighted and uninformed opinions don't take into account that we have, I can't even give a number to how many hundreds of thousands of research articles have been written about ADHD, or research projects that have been done on ADHD. We've found that, right now, as far as we know, it's mostly a neurologic and genetic kind of condition that is inherited. It's not because mom ate too many candy bars, or that you were a bad parent and didn't raise your child correctly. No, it's strictly luck of the draw, and you get it right at the beginning of life, and it's about 85% heritable, which means that if your child has it, somebody in one of your family lines also has it, a lot of it, and that you're, I don't recommend that parents spend a lot of time worrying about which family line it comes from, because that's really not very productive and doesn't change a darn thing. But I've seen it happen before. That comes from your side of the family. Your uncle's crazy, Anyway, that kind of talk is not very helpful to anybody. But what we're talking about today is, I spent some time last time talking about how important it is to emotional regulation, to have some way of relaxing or meditating or whatnot. Now, basically, there's not a lot of difference between meditation and relaxation training. The procedures are essentially similar. It used to be, when I first started out in this business, that meditation had a sort of a negative connotation because it was seen as kind of woo-woo and not very scientific. Nowadays, it seems like there's way more acceptance of it. Matter of fact, it seems that meditation has become the preferred term. And all the trendy people are doing it. And it is very helpful. It helps you regulate your emotional arousal. it's not done, it's something that's done at the cognitive level. It's done to help your body sort of slow down and get into a relaxed, comfortable state. Now, there are some side effects of people who meditate a great deal. One of them is that their cerebral cortex, which is the outer layer of the brain, the part that actually most of us think of as the brain, the part that does the thinking and impulse control and all that other stuff, is contained in the cerebral cortex. So meditators tend to have a thicker cerebral cortex, suggesting that it improves your brain and your brain functioning, and over a lifetime causes some resistance to mental decline with the years. Okay, but what you're interested in if you have an ADHD child is it gives them some tools to control things a little bit better, and admittedly, them using it regularly is a hit or miss sort of thing, and it's vital that it's considered to be an appropriate family thing. And honestly, that usually means that both parents take part and don't make fun of it and think of it as an important thing to do. It, over time, gives you control of your emotions, helps you de-stress, and helps you calm down. And believe it or not, even hyperactive kids will sit quietly doing this sort of thing. Sometimes you have to, kind of tell them, let's see who can sit quietly the longest or something like that. But you got to feel your way with that because there's not one rule that tends to work all the time. Okay. In addition to being a neuropsychologist, I also am a behavior medicine specialist. I have a postdoc in behavioral medicine as well as the neuropsychology one, which isn't to pump up things, but to understand that I have been doing some work with meditation, relaxation training, self-hypnosis, biofeedback for decades. I used to work a lot with chronic pain, anxiety disorders, panic attacks, all that kind of stuff. And I will tell you that this stuff actually works very well. I want to present you with a model. Okay? The idea is that there are just 4 steps in learning to meditate. 4 things you need to do. Why, thank you, whoever that was. There are just 4 steps, like I said. There is, first of all, and this is, I'm cribbing heavily from Dr. Spiegel's work on meditation. Okay, he did a huge study of what were the effective components of meditation to try to get it from a mystical sort of viewpoint to something a little more pragmatic and practical that Westerners could understand and use better. Okay, first thing is you need a distraction-free environment. Now, this is particularly important when you're first starting out. Meditation, relaxation training is a skill. And as a result, what that means is that you have to practice it to get good at it. It is not one of those things like an aspirin that you can just take when you need it. You need to have practiced and developed the skill ahead of time. And when you're first starting out, distraction is your enemy. It gets in your way, you lose concentration, dip-de-dip-de-dip. As you get better at it, you can handle more and more distraction-free or distraction-filled environments. I personally have meditated in some incredibly long, boring meetings. Staff meetings, yes, I have indeed. And many other situations. once you develop the skill, you can use it all the time, all the time. Okay, so the next thing you need is a reasonably comfortable posture. Okay, a lot of folks think that you have to be able to sit cross-legged or, some advanced yoga pose to meditate. Not true. You can do it pretty much in any position. I would recommend that when you first start out that you're using a seated position, like in a chair that's reasonably comfortable, but probably not a recliner. What you don't want to do is get your relaxation practice, your meditation practice, confused with sleep. And if every time you start to do the practice you fall asleep, take a little nap, that kind of thing, that's not going to be helpful to developing the skill. The next component, the third component, and probably the most important, is a focus for your attention. Because what you're doing is you're trying to get your brain to focus on one thing, so it doesn't focus on all the crazy maker thoughts and, I got to do this, and I got to do 3 of those and 4 of that, and, look, there's a butterfly kind of thing. You can focus. This is not that you're not going to do that. You're going to wander off periodically, but you need to bring your attention back to your focus and gently. And we wandered. Okay, now we're back. Okay, now the focus can be many things. One of the things Spiegel researched was just saying 1 every time you exhaled. And that indeed is probably the simplest way of doing this sort of thing. Just every time you 1. Every time you exhale, you just think to yourself 1. You can say it out loud if that's helpful, but most of the time it's just saying it to yourself. 1, 1, 1. And some of his later research, he suggested that you might want to change the 1 to something that was personally meaningful to you, some short 2 or 3 word thing that was personally meaningful, peace and love, or more religiously speaking, God is love, or something personally meaningful. It could be religious, it could be spiritual, could be personally meaningful. Life is good. I love my children. I love my wife. It doesn't really matter. What really matters is that you say it every time you exhale, okay? You exhale and you say what you've decided is your meaningful statement, the one you want to focus on. And there's no law that says you have to use the same one every day. Although when you first start out, I would recommend you stick to 1 so you don't add an extra distraction-free fee to it. Okay, and then the most important and perhaps the most difficult to achieve is what's called a passive set of mind. Okay, a passive set of mind means you're not going to demand that anything happen. You're going to do your technique and wait and see what happens. Okay, that's the important thing. Is if you could just order this stuff, you could just look at yourself in the mirror and yell, relax, and things would happen. But you can't. You have to do the technique, you have to do the procedure, and you have to do it for some period of time before you get results. Okay, and those were the 4 steps that Spiegel talked about. A comfortable posture, a distraction-free environment, a focus for your attention, and a passive set of mind. That's all there is to it. In his mind, anyway. the other, and there are some other things you need to probably know about. One is the type of breathing you're doing. The breathing ideally is diaphragmatic, okay, or belly breathing, as some people call it. Okay, the idea is what should happen when we take a normal breath is that your belly goes out, your abdomen relaxes, your diaphragm goes down into the abdomen and helps create a kind of a suction that helps you fill up your lungs. And then when you exhale, your stomach goes in and you squeeze the air out. Okay? This is the way we all naturally breathe when we're little kids, and probably right about the time we start getting interested in members of the opposite sex, we start holding our stomach in all the time. And when we start doing that, then we become chest and shoulder breathers. And chest and shoulder breathers, you can always tell because when they breathe, their shoulders are moving up and down and up and down. And there are a lot of problems with that because when you're breathing like that, you're only breathing from the top of your lungs. You're not using about 80% of your lung capacity. You're just breathing across the top. For ADHDers, this is it. Who cares really? But if you have anxiety problems on top of your ADHD, then it's going to be an issue because the symptoms of anxiety and panic and so on are related to not getting enough oxygen in, that you're hyperventilating basically. So you don't want to be setting yourself up for that. So you need to learn to breathe deeply from the diaphragm. And one of the best ways to do that, is to put one hand on your stomach, put the other hand on your chest, and then as you inhale, and I don't really care whether you inhale through the nose or the mouth. I have a lot of allergies, so whatever is open is what I use. But the idea is that when you inhale, your stomach goes out. Let me show you. Oh, that was my inhale. And now the exhale. Okay, now a couple of things about that breath. Your inhalation and your exhalation should last about the same length of time. And you've got to watch out for that with the exhalation because your muscles are all set up to squeeze the air out as fast as they can. That's how come you can blow up a balloon, okay? So you need to make sure that your breath, your exhalation is coming out nice and slow, like if you had a lit candle in front of you. The flame would flutter maybe, but you wouldn't blow it out and you wouldn't get it totally flat in the opposite direction, okay? So you just... Okay, and the diaphragmatic breathing for some people is the whole problem. They have been squeezing their stomach tight for so many years that they have to really fight to release that tension in their abdomen. It's good for you to be able to do that, by the way. You store, different power places where you store tension cause you different physical symptoms. I don't want to go into detail if you're storing it all in your abdomen, what kind of physical symptoms you're going to have, but you probably know. The deal is you have to practice that, okay? You have to get good at that, okay? And it's just another habit that you train. You do it a little bit at a time, and eventually you get better and better at it. Okay, then when you're ready to start meditation, training, or practice, you get yourself in your distraction-free environment, your comfortable posture, and a good idea is to register where you are tension-wise at the beginning. Okay, the easiest way is to use a 0 to 10 scale, where 0 is absolutely no tension, and 10 is the most you can imagine. The ambulance has been called, okay? 0, you're never going to see because that means you're dead, basically. Okay, so find a number while you're just sitting there quietly that represents where you are. And then just start focusing on your breath, the exhalation, and what you've decided that is going to be your focus. Okay, and your focus for attention, we talk about words because that's what a lot of people use. You can also use something like a lit candle, or some kind of a drawing, but just, I mean, shoot, you can focus on an apple if you want to. Just keep focusing on it. And every time your attention wanders, you just bring your attention back to your focus point. Wander, bring it back. Do it gently. Do it kindly. Don't get frustrated. You know, why did I can't do this? This sucks. Okay, you don't want to be doing that. Just bring it back calmly and keep doing that. As you oxygenate, as you train your focus, you concentrate better, you are able to stay with it longer. Okay, and I wouldn't recommend anybody start out right away trying to do 20 minutes. Start out with something that's easy to get to, 5 minutes maybe, and then increase it after you've done a week of 5 minutes, increase it by about, 10% or so, 20%, I guess you'd have to, 6 or 7 minutes, and then another couple of minutes after that week, and eventually you're up to 10, and then you start to really, you can probably accelerate then, because after about 10 minutes, you've got it, and then it's easy to add 5 minutes and so on. So eventually, ideally, you want to be able to do 20 minutes, 20 minutes, and at least once a day, but preferably a couple of times a day, usually first thing in the morning and in the evening. Has some, kind of neat side effects in the morning. Kind of helps you be nice, relaxed, and energized. In the evening, it helps you slow down and be ready to go to bed and get to sleep. So it's, like I said, it's an important skill. It's important for everybody to know. It's especially important for your ADHD kids to know, but it's also vitally important for your ADHD parents to know. It reduces stress. It helps you calm down. You can be more logical and organized and so on. Okay, so that's important. And it's a skill that you can readily develop yourself. And if you want to, you can get real fancy with it. What you've got to watch out for is that a lot of times, if you buy apps and things like that that are designed to help you relax, the problem is if there's a lot of words to it, if there's somebody reading a script or something like that, they're not with you, okay? They don't know how you're doing or what you're doing. They're just reading a script. So the disconnect may be disconcerting to you, upsetting even. Okay, what you want to do, what I prefer, my preferences are the types of relaxation training apps that don't really have words. I like the Relaxing Melodies app, and my personal favorite is the Ocean Sounds and what they call Zen. And the interesting thing is that they both have the same beat, so the waves crash at the same time the music intensifies a little. And anyway, I like it a lot. I use it regularly, and there are some others that are a little more technical. There are some what are basically biofeedback type apps. Usually you have to have a plethysmograph or something that you clip to your ear. And those are also helpful, but they're a little more. I think one is $75 or something like that. But you figure use it every day for the rest of your life. That's not much of an investment, and it just gives you feedback on how your body is responding, and if it's becoming more relaxed and comfortable or not. And that's helpful. I would not argue against, doing some of that, but I don't know that that's the best way to start. I'm not sure what is the best way to start, really, but the way I started was probably with, just the focus of attention, that sort of thing. And then later I had a lot more formal instruction, and then, was certified hypnotherapist for a long time. And, then I told you I did a behavioral medicine postdoc, and we did a bunch of biofeedback, which is just you're using machines to tell you how tense or relaxed your body is. And it usually gives you a signal, a light flashing, a beep, something like that lets you know, your muscle tension is high, or your circulatory system is all constricted and uptight. You need to relax it and let it open up some. Anyway, maybe more information than you needed to know, but at least the basics. Distraction-free environment, comfortable posture, a focus for your attention, and a passive set of mind. Remember those 4 things. Apply those 4 things. And also, at the end of your session, don't forget to go back to your 0 to 10 scale and see where you are. Okay? Ideally, your relaxation has improved, your stress has reduced. Okay? It's an important thing to do for your young ADHD child. It's an important thing to do for your ADHD spouse. And of course, if you happen to be the only person in the household who doesn't have ADHD, you need to do something for your stress. Okay, that's me for this time. We will catch you next week. Remember, I am Dr. Terry James Gingras. This is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, making the world safe for ADHDers. Because remember, ADHDers are outside-the-box thinkers, and only outside-the-box thinkers change the world. And maybe your child will be the one that's going to change the world. I hope so. Okay, we'll catch you next time. I am at terrygingrasphd.com. Bye now.